Get these things started, all right? 7:32.
Wait, is this? Oh, what's that?
Well, this is it. We'll let's start the meeting. Get her going. There you go.
Thanks.
All right, this is the Fairhaven Shade Tree Commission meeting of April 2nd, 2025. This is the regular meeting of the Shade Tree Commission of the Borough of Fairhaven. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform, being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this meeting on April 2nd, 2025 is available by call-in phone number or through Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for questions or comment, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and the Star Ledger on January 31st, 2025. Posted on the Borough website, the Borough Bulletin Board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Shade Tree Commission Secretary is directed to include this statement in the minutes of the meeting. All right, roll call, Christie.
Leah Vigani. Absent. Peter DeGotti.
Here.
Mike D'Angelo. Absent. Mike Coe. Absent. Chris Larson.
Here.
Chris McCabe. Absent. Rebecca Fleet.
Here.
Jill Sullivan.
Here.
Bonnie Torsivia.
Here.
Councilman LaBarbera said he joined by Zoom, but I guess not yet. Also present, Borough Secretary Christy Larson. You have a quorum.
Okay. All right. Please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Approval of the prior meeting minutes. Everybody peruse those and any questions, comments, or concerns?
No.
Get a motion to approve. Second. All right, minutes approved. Before we get to the project updates, want to extend a warm welcome to our newest member, our newest commissioner, Rebecca Fleet. Out there, I'm looking this way, I should be looking at this thing.
Okay.
Hi, Rebecca, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. I was hoping to be there in person, and then, of course, today started to have some kind of cold happening, so I just didn't want my first visit there to be getting everyone sick. So I'm glad I can join you all by Zoom, and yeah, so happy to be here, and thank you so much.
Great. Usually when we have a new commissioner, Rebecca, we like to just have them rattle off the top 100 things they like about trees.
Oh man.
just quick.
That should only take a few seconds. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Hopefully you'll be here soon. All right, so obviously we cleared the schedule to discuss some very important business, our community forestry management plan. And Bill, none of us, our two longest members are not here, Michael D'Angelo and Chris McCabe. I don't even know if they were commissioners at the time the last plan was done up. So everyone here is new to this entire process. So I don't know what would be best if you want to just kind of lead us through the process or tell us what you need from us going
Sure.
forward or.
You know, you're not unique because the guidelines are new. This is the new.
Okay, yeah.
So nobody has gone through this process before, this new process.
Okay.
So, and really, how I don't see any reason to differ in the way that we did it the last time in terms of the procedure. It's really what I did send to Christie and she made copies of,
Mhm.
okay? This is kind of just a blueprint of what the state has said that they want the plan to look like from a structure standpoint.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
And there's just, anything that you see in black type on that plan is something that was pulled from the old plan that may apply
Okay,
to this one. And everything in red is new and is guidelines to help you focus on what they're looking for the discussion.
okay,
And the other new, the big new part to this, the new guidelines, and you can get them online too, Community Forestry's got a set of them.
I did look through some of these, some of the guidelines here.
Like
Okay.
reading this
Yeah.
afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then, it's a learning curve too, to go through these kind of documents if you haven't done it before. But really what they want, and you guys are ahead of the game because you have your inventory.
Mhm.
Okay? These decisions that go into the plan have to be data driven. And to be data driven, you have to have an inventory. That's why they're requiring it. You have the inventory. I spent some time going through it. It's interesting and it's not prototypical for the towns that I work with. Not because the format is not good, because it's easy to read, okay? But it's different because in the top 15 trees that you have along your streets, Norway maple is one that's 18, almost 19%. And there is a gazillion of them planted in the 60s. That was the go-to for the builders. So, but the rest of them are just forest trees and driving around and remembering Fairhaven, you don't really have that large of a planned streetscape where homes were all developed at the same time and the builder went through and adhered to a plan that the borough required them to do. You have black locust and you've got black cherry and and eastern red cedar, and these are not shade trees that you traditionally see planted along the streets as a result. So it's a little different in that regards. And I took a ride around and you don't have the typical sidewalk or tree planted either inside the sidewalk or between curb and sidewalk. So it's very interesting. Your urban forest, you have a great canopy cover. It exceeds what the recommendations is because it's over 40%.
Mhm.
Okay, and so that's really good. And I noticed in your report that there wasn't any vacancies determined, okay?
Yeah, we couldn't afford that. So that would be something, that I think should go into the plan, is kind of like identifying those in this software. But we maxed out with actually putting, live trees.
Fortunately, it's not required by the state. It's recommended but not required. But it's a really important point because if you want to include tree planting in this plan, which you have to do if at some point you want to request funding from the state to do those plantings, it's got to be part of the plan, okay? But you don't have any data. And so that's one of the missing parts that we have to come up with.
The data with regards to,
Where those
Vacancies.
vacancies are.
okay,
And if you want to take a look at this little draft that I sent over, using the data, here's your canopy cover map of Fairhaven.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You just did that.
This actually, yes, this is
Okay.
new.
That's
All right.
that's in.
Okay.
I didn't do it myself,
No,
but I pulled the data off.
Right,
The
okay.
recommended, it's called New Jersey Forest Adapt, and it's a website that's run by Rutgers. Okay, and I believe the white part there is actually the Navesink River.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and this happens to be River Road. Okay, the line right through the middle of it there, it has white,
That 2016 is the most up to date.
that's what they have. yes,
At Rutgers?
yeah. They're not up to 2016, I think, for all municipalities. It just so happens that that's the date that they have for Fairhaven.
Hmm.
So, which is post Sandy, so that's helpful anyway, because Sandy had an impact a lot on tree resource. But you can see where there are some gaps in that. And the only ones that I know, familiar enough with Fairhaven is River Road here. I don't know where these others are. And driving down River Road, I take it this is the commercial district, which is white. And there's
Yeah,
not a
That's
lot of.
probably, that's pretty much Acme parking lot, the big white one.
Okay.
And then the smaller, I guess maybe we'll call it business area further to the
East.
east
Yeah.
here, yep.
And we have a heat map that was drawn up for one that shows the hot spots in town, and that is one of them.
Okay.
So that might be something.
It is, but I didn't see any easily planted sites there, cause there's a lot of concrete.
Yeah.
We just had the road redone,
Mhm.
new sidewalk put in.
Right.
So I don't know that there's really much that can be done there,
Okay,
okay, because there doesn't, at least easily. You can't core the concrete because it's just sidewalk. The sidewalk comes right up to the road.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe you can install some in the parking lot beds in the Acme, if you could convince the Acme folks or whoever owns the ground that that would be something worthwhile, and we could work with that by structuring the tree planting to be as amenable to those folks as possible. Usually the merchants have a problem sometimes if the trees block their sign or it's not as visible, but we could do columnar trees or something like that, that would still provide some cover and address their concerns about not being able to be seen by their customers.
Mhm.
So,
Would we be able to, just thinking like short term, identify vacant spots within the public parks?
sure, absolutely. If you
I mean,
want to,
because I think like, I'm looking over here where obviously that dark green area is the natural area, but to the left of it or to the west of it, that's probably Fairhaven Fields, which has that walking
Mhm.
path around it.
okay,
So, and there's stumps there, like, so that could be like a starting point, like where would we, like, cause I know that we could have applied for this, having a partial inventory. I'm assuming that we could say we partially identify the vacant spots, right?
I can walk that, I can take pictures, I can show vacancies, and we can include that.
Yeah, cause I think, like if
That would
a
be-
partial inventory would be acceptable, like I would feel like maybe if we said, or we identified vacancies within, parks and municipal, like, maybe Borough Hall area or something like that without like walking the streets. That might be a good place to start.
I'll be spending some time driving the streets too. I mean, I did a little bit before the meeting today. And you have a lot of tree canopy here in town. There's big trees and there's trees everywhere, as you can see.
I wonder if it would be a good idea to maybe even, give you access to Arbor Pro and you could identify vacancies as you're driving around directly within our inventory system.
Or if you send it to me, I
Yeah.
can plot them
Yeah.
very easily. The software package we have, we're responsible for maintaining it, basically myself and DPW, so.
Okay.
Like I just updated it today for 3 new trees that were planted near the DPW. Like,
Okay.
so it's flexible software that, because if that's gonna drive grant funds, we definitely want that as part of our. plan.
Exactly.
Yeah, vacancies are,
Well, it's
We have
important
to
to
show-
plan, it's important for us to be able to plan around those too. I mean,
yes, to look at areas where you could plant and identify those select species and then when money becomes available. And I don't believe that there's gonna be any state funding for several years for tree planting because of the fact that the money's all going into planning and inventory right now. Just between now and the end of December, there's 114 possible municipalities that may go through this planning process. And so, and all the, up to $20,000 per town is going into that. So that, it's, that's where all their effort's going right now. You wanna get the plans done, you wanna get the inventories done. And at some point down the road, they'll provide funding for what those plans say that municipalities need, whether it's trees, whether it's pruning, whether it's removals.
Mhm.
So one of the spots that, Ridge Road that goes Red Bank, Fairhaven, Rumson, has lost a ton of trees. It's a county road. First Red Bank Regional cut down all those trees under the power lines. Like all these oak trees came down. We, then Rumson in their park across just took down a whole slew of trees. We could use some trees on our side by the natural area and along, we've lost some trees. There's like a good neighbor program with the DEP or something. I kind of reached out to somebody to see, I'd heard from Massbon that you get grants for. I don't think they're county, I think they're state roads. But there was something, it's like a very compelling, so many trees came down this major roadway
Okay.
in all these towns, and I don't know if we could somehow do something to repair that.
Do you know who's running that program that you're talking about? It's through DEP, you said?
I think so, if I,
I know they have a Reggie Fuel project program for planting trees associated with the regional greenhouse gas initiative. But I think they're targeting schools for that.
Yeah, I saw that one,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to work with any of the schools or, because I think there's a new round of grant funds coming out for that.
I saw
I
that.
did see that.
Yeah.
Sustainable Jersey, I think is. the
Yeah.
one.
Yes, yeah.
and our schools should
Yeah.
use them.
I'd obviously have to go on school property then.
And it's his second year for that too. They've already gone through, I think, 2 or 3 million for schools in the first round. I don't know how much funding is available for this round, but it's coming out this year.
Yeah, I think it was like 4.5 million I saw.
Okay.
But the schools have to apply.
Yes, the
Yeah,
schools have to
only-
apply.
We forwarded to our school board.
Okay.
Or to the business administrator of the school.
So that's one of the things you guys can think about. You meet monthly. Traditionally, how it works is we go over this, maybe I give you an assignment or two for the next meeting.
Sure.
You can feed me during that interim and I can make the changes so that you're gonna see the plan as it evolves.
Mhm.
Okay, and hopefully in 6 meetings, we've got it resolved. You know, we've got it complete where we can submit it and, for approval.
Okay.
And that's the timeline that I have in my head anyway.
Okay.
And you can, you know, I'll leave my card, you can call me, you can email me, you can text me with any additional information or ask me to look into things and I'll do just that.
Okay.
Um,
Looking through the guidelines, they touch on, obviously your goals. It it sounded like, just sounded like when we were talking about, specific programs, like the Good Neighbor program, like very specific things. Do they have to be specific with the description, like, if our broad goal, of course, would always be to maintain and, increase the canopy where we can. But as far as a management plan, how specific do we have to get, for example, on something like that?
You don't have to be that specific, you can mention that, you can just certainly say that, we have these vacancies, we have this need that's been identified, and so we're gonna seek funding opportunities whenever
Okay.
and these are the ones that are currently, viable, and we'll pursue whatever comes in. So you don't have to get real specific about it,
Okay.
as far as that goes. The other thing too, that even though you didn't have vacancies in here, which is something that is important, that will be included on the plan. But there was also, some priority pruning and removals. Have you guys done anything based on that data yet?
Yes, I
Yes.
started.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Good, because you said you had to, you already changed some stuff based on tree planting before. So that's terrific. That
Yeah, so
would
he's
be-
showing action against the,
Yes,
It's like our liability statement. The
Yes.
required liability statement, something like that would go under. in there.
absolutely, it would be. You know, the driving force for this thing for when it was originally came about, the funding and the whole plan preparation was to reduce risk to the residents, okay? And also to the folks that were managing the shade tree commissions, the environmental commissions, and the municipalities themselves to reduce their liability, because you're actively identifying these risks and then reducing them. Okay, so that's a real important part, because that's been identified. There's a priority one removal list, and there's a priority one pruning list.
The director of DPW, has the list, he's made contact with some property owners, if
Okay,
they happen to be a street tree, this inventory is public trees. But that also encompasses some that are in the right of way. He works with our licensed tree expert, who is, CME Associates, and working
Shadows
together.
Bureau,
yes,
okay. Is it, are they your consulting engineer, CMA?
I don't know, but she's our licensed tree expert for the borough, I don't know offhand.
I will share. Okay, so maybe you can tell me about how far along you've gotten on that, or if you have, you know, you might be thinking about that. And it maybe with your DPW fella that says, look, you have X amount of trees, and I haven't marked down here, say there's 50 trees are priority one for removal. You know, we plan to do 5 in the next 5-year plan, where we're gonna get them all down in the next 5 years under this.
Maybe he would come to one of these sessions and.
Yeah, probably a good idea, or I can reach out to him and find out exactly what action has been taken and what the plan is.
Yeah, what the plan is, because I think there's like, they have 2 priorities. And there's priority 1 and priority 2, and they have pruning and removals in each of those priorities. So it'd be good if he's sat down and said, this is my plan for completing these, and how long it's gonna take him to do it, and where he's gonna start, kind of thing. We can include it in the plan.
Does it? Obviously, budget would play into.
Oh,
to do all
absolutely.
this work, so I think that's a broader discussion. than
Yes.
So,
and that, I
Yes.
think, and I think like in reading all these things, it always says, you know, that budget is a consideration,
Absolutely.
you know, so as long as we are working towards that, I think is what we're,
There's no
Yeah.
pressure, it's what you guys can work into your manpower and your budget.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, but it's been identified, you just have to work towards reducing that risk.
Okay.
But is the, one of the reasons to have this to justify a bigger budget, or to say what we need, what, an ideal budget maybe?
Yes,
If
you
I
can
mean,
take this information back to the funders, the township borough council, and say, current budget, we can only get this, it's gonna take us 20 years to do this, or it's gonna take us 10 years. We'd like to be able to do it in 5, here's how much we need to do
Are you gonna help us do that?
it. I'll put it all on paper,
Yeah.
put it
'Cause I
on
think that
paper.
would be helpful, wouldn't it, just to kind of. feel like
Well,
it's so-
there's a question of budget, and then there's also a question of manpower. We have the money, but we don't have the staff to do it. I mean, we can always hire, I guess,
I think all
outside
these-
contractors.
yeah, I think these removals are all higher
Yeah,
hire out people. But I think like, you know, there's a case for justifying an increase in budget, but I don't know if that's part of your management plan, right? Like maybe we work through this and say, okay, our plan allows, we can only do this in 10 years, but I guess it could be part of the plan, say we plan to, you know, ask for additional funding in order to improve that plan. But, right, like that
Yeah,
wouldn't be
no, I agree.
necessary,
Like,
that
you
wouldn't be,
can't-
like, that's part of your
Can't rely
action,
on,
right? But it's not like, we're not giving them our plan and then saying,
it's
Fix it.
worthless unless we get this money. We
Right.
can't do it.
Yeah, like,
You
it
can't
has to
rely
be-
on it.
Like, it has to be part, like an action item, right? As opposed to a contingency of the plan.
Right.
Like, our plan is contingent on getting more money,
Plan-
right?
But we're,
Does that
we're
make
always
sense,
gonna
what I'm
have to
saying?
lobby for more money, but we have to still. Kind of almost like a worst case scenario, we still are gonna have to work within these parameters of like, you know, it's been a cap of 2.5%. For. I don't know how many years, it just feels like it's been a 2.5% municipal cap for, I
Forever.
don't know, forever. So, I mean. Yes, we can lobby for more money, but we have to come up with a realistic plan to work within. Right?
You know, I think that's,
What
I
we're
think that's
most
what I'm
likely
saying, like,
going
this is
against,
what
right?
an action item on our plan would be to say. You know, if it's gonna take us 10 years to achieve this goal of getting rid of all the priority one removals and prunes, like an action item under that would be. To, you know, solicit or what lobby, whatever it is, I probably can't do that.
Nag.
For additional funding in order to improve that plan, in order to improve that timeline. Right, but it wouldn't be, we can't make the plan. Contingent on getting more funding.
Right,
I'm
that's-
saying the same thing, right?
Yeah,
You know, the other thing too is there's more than one way to skin that cat too, because it depends on where the trees are located. If they're located on county roads, then the county may be responsible for that, so you can reach out and form a working relationship with the county. It could be utility lines that are, service lines that are at risk should something happen. So then it's JCP&L, you can get involved in that as well. You can get a relationship with the forest with JCP&L. And so that you're reaching out to these other organizations, it may not, you can maybe reduce your timeline without having to spend additional monies because you have partners that are responsible for that too. You just have to know where the trees are located and whether or not some of the responsibility could be JCP&L or could be Monmouth County.
I think that I think that if I remember correctly also, that some of these priority one removals. Aren't necessarily like have a high risk rating because they might not be falling on property.
Okay,
Because we did have a risk assessment done along with a condition.
okay,
So I can't recall, like if all of the high risk ones. If all the priority one removals also have that high risk rating,
You're right, they don't.
Yeah,
okay.
so,
Well, that's terrific because then you can zero in on those.
right, so it might be like,
Yes,
yeah,
and risk is, the rating on risk is always a result of the target below. The
exactly,
impact could be whether a structure or there's a sidewalk or there's a park bench or there's some reason for people to be under, or vehicles to be under that. And whether or not those targets can be moved, like a park bench. You can just move it away from the trees at risk.
Mhm.
Or if it's a structure where you can't.
yeah, I'm thinking about, yeah,
So I mean, that all goes into the risk rating for that.
right.
So if they're high risk and they're priority one, those should be the ones you zero in on. And do you guys have that much information from
Yes.
the inventory?
Yes.
Okay.
Every tree that is over, DBH of 12 has a risk assessment associated with it,
Okay,
yeah.
now who did the risk assessment? Did Arbor Pro do that?
Yeah.
Is that right? Well, no wonder it cost you so.
That was
Because
a
that's- it's
requirement,
really-
that was a requirement of the grant,
Is that right?
yeah,
Our risk assessment was high, medium, low. It wasn't like a whole, it was
Yeah.
just a singular,
So it's more like a condition,
yeah.
Condition.
okay?
There were notes on
But
something.
there was a condition
Right,
field
there
as
was like a.
well.
yeah, there was a
disease on the
condition,
tree
there's
noted.
condition and the risk associated with the, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, if, I have seen the printout, the Excel spreadsheet that has everything.
Yeah.
On there. So, I mean, it would be easy, I guess, there's not that many priority ones, you could go in there and if you already know where that information is, you can target 5 per year with starting at the ones with the risk, the highest risk,
Yes,
We can run that report, yeah.
okay? So you already discussed two of the biggest things so far in this planning process. I mean, it's gonna take a while to get through that, all right, but, you have a really good handle on your research.
Here.
Probably as good as any of the towns that I've worked at. I've worked with some really top-notch towns like Spring Lake. You guys are right there. You really are.
Nice.
I'm impressed.
Meeting adjourned. Let's.
I mean, I just sat down,
Yeah.
but thank you, and I just finished my core training, just listening to other towns and townships talk about their shade tree commissions. Most of them don't even have commissions, they're committees or just organizations. I mean, it's very rare to even have a commission. I think we're doing really, really well here. I know we have our own problems, but I mean, I gotta, after listening to and participating in these conversations, I mean, I'm kind of proud of what we have right here.
You should be. I've seen a lot of towns, worked with a lot of towns, and for you to have this level of understanding of your resource, it's impressive. It really is. I mean, you have your inventory, you know where your risks are. You're updating your inventory to trees being planted. You're probably in the 90th percentile of the towns that are going through this.
Now, if we could just get people to not cut down big trees on their own property. That would, then I would really feel
Well,
like.
that's
a
an
success.
education, and that can be addressed in a plan too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely
yeah.
kind of the core thing.
Do you guys have any questions for me? Specifically?
So is it best to like kind of take this and like kind of take notes and ideas and stuff and we work through that and then kind of loop you in?
Yes,
Okay.
that's a good way to do it.
Fill in the blank, lay a ad lib here.
These are discussion, everything in red here is exactly what the state wants this discussion process to be and consider, like barriers to success. Funding comes up all the time when it comes to barriers to success, but it could be capacity, okay? You'd like to be able to have a knowledgeable tree person in town to be working on trees, but you don't, that may be identified as a need, okay? So that could be it. It could be the fact that there's a lot of concrete on River Road and there's a lack of tree planting locations as a result. Maybe you can work, you can do something about it, maybe you can't. Okay, but it's one of the barriers to what you'd like to be able to do.
Even though it's a county, we could still say we'd like to have some more tree.
Yeah,
planting.
I mean, if it's a county, and maybe that is you establish a closer relationship with the county.
Yeah,
And you do have a bunch of county roads. Ridge Road's a county road, right? And River Road's a county road.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You don't have any state highways okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Because it's an act of Congress to work.
I was just gonna say another layer.
So then your overall program goals, we've already talked about a couple of them.
Yeah.
Plant trees is one,
Mhm.
okay, reducing risk with your priority removals and pruning projects. If there's anything else that you want, and I heard a third one too, you were talking about the big open space piece of ground, okay?
The fields or the natural area, the open area, yeah.
If you wanted to inventory that as a whole, you can do that.
You're talking
The
the
nature
natural
area,
area,
the
yeah.
natural area.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a representative from the natural area.
Okay.
No, I think so. I think,
Yeah.
Hey,
Me too,
put 'em on
me
the
too,
spot,
but we have two people. here,
You
yeah.
can do that, and there's funding available to do that as well.
I saw that when I was reading through this thing, whatever, this one. That inventorying the natural area, like in forested area is part of like what we should be doing too.
Yes,
Yeah. So
And
that
I
should
can
be-
So
tell
another
you,
grant, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
it's that project, we're going through that at Lake Topanemus in Freehold. It's a 71-acre forested parcel. And that funder is the Natural Resource Conservation Service, the USDA agency. They usually work with private lands with farmers, but they can provide those resources to public landholders as well. As long as that public landholder, like the Borough of Freehold, would enter into an agreement with a nonprofit to manage the property. So then the funding will go to the nonprofit would then contract with the people to do what work you need to be done.
So,
But the plan would be provided
Right.
to do that work. And I can send you a copy of the Lake Topanemus part. These folks were the nonprofit that I worked with, along with the Borough of Freehold. And we just did a 10-acre thinning and 10-acre invasive species removal was paid for.
What's the nonprofit?
I'll give you a little history. I work for a conservation district, soil conservation district, and Bill has worn many hats. One of the hats he wore for 30 years was the manager of a conservation district in Mercer County. So I'm the manager in Freehold, and we do Monmouth and Middlesex County. We have founded it's called the Open Space Conservation Consortium. And we did it specifically to partner with towns to get federal dollars. So I don't know if you're familiar with conservation districts and the work that we do. Conservation districts grew out of the 1930s, the Dust Bowl. President Roosevelt decided that we needed better farming practices. So the federal government went out to the farmers and said, we want to help you. And the farmers said, we don't trust you. So conservation districts were formed, and they're local entities that farmers come to, sign up with us, and they get federal dollars. And it still works to this day. So when you hear about the Farm Bill and federal dollars being used for lands, it has to go through the conservation district. So from the 30s till about the 70s, we were an ag assistance agency. In 1976, they passed the Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Act. We turned into an environmental regulatory agency, and that's what we still are today. However, we would like to get back to our roots of agricultural assistance. So, like I said, Bill for 30 years ran the Mercer District, and to do the community forest plan, which we're talking about now, there's 9 people that can do it in the whole state.
Yeah.
So Bill came to us and said, I really want you guys to get involved in this. So for how that affects you, this is Jacob, he's an urban forester we just hired. We're hoping just to peek over Bill's shoulder to learn how to do these things. But like I said, we do have other things that we can offer. One was the Lake Topanemus plan. We picked, I'm not sure how big the park is, Bill.
71 acres.
We picked a 9-acre plot that's literally surrounded by a walking path. And Bill did the plan for the whole park. We went to NRCS and said, you know, there's 10 action items on this plan. Will you fund these 4? So we picked 4 items out of that, and forest thinning, wood wildlife habitat establishment,
Invasive species.
invasive species, and one that got everyone's attention was controlled burning. Everyone liked that one, but essentially, you know, in layman's terms, we thinned out the forest to get rid of some of the undesirable species, opened up the canopy to more sunlight, and then the next phase is we're gonna go back in and plant desirable species so that the forest has a more it's less homogeneous. It's pretty much a stand of one kind.
It's
And
this is
stratified
like
too.
exactly what the natural area is looking
Yeah.
for.
The plan covers the whole
Right.
area and then zeroes in on, just like this community forestry management plan, zeroes in on areas that need the work.
And the other similarity, Bill did the plan 7 years ago.
Yeah.
So just like you guys, you're gonna have a plan. Well, it took 7 years for someone else to pick it up and say, we're gonna take the goals from his plan and fund it and actually achieve it. So that wouldn't have happened unless the plan was developed. Like if we went to NRCS right now and said, we wanna just do this, they'd say, well, where's the forest management plan? Where's the, where's all the data and the research? So that's why we would wanna get involved in the planning process so that we can do these types of projects.
So okay, so how would Fairhaven get involved with,
Get your money.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
The original, did we fund the plan originally, or no, Freehold funded the plan? You came with the plan.
Yes, that's what it was. Freehold Borough went to NRCS and said, we want our forester to get a plan. So they funded that. And actually they didn't want anything to do with the money. They just wanted the plan.
Right.
So they signed an agreement and NRCS just sent me the check when the plan was approved and done. So they didn't have to worry about anything. And then once there was several practices that had to be done in there, we went to Tim to get them funded. Because as a public entity, the Borough of Freehold had to sign that agreement with the NPO that said, okay, we're gonna be in charge of this work.
Right.
And so that's how, and it was just completed this past.
We also have, we have a separate agreement with Middlesex County Parks to do exactly the same thing. They have like 3,000 acres of forest that they need managed. So they came to us and they said, we have this John Phillips forest area. We would like a forest management plan. They came to us being the nonprofit, we went to NRCS with the Parks Department and said, we would like to fund a forest management plan. And NRCS said, we're allowed to fund those things. Here's what it has to be involved in the plan. We'll give you, just for argument, we'll give you $1,000, go out and do it. It was more than that. So we hired then a forester, Gracie and Harrigan. They went out and developed the plan. We submit the plan to DEP because it has to be approved by DEP. And then we go back to NRCS and say, we have the plan, and NRCS, all their funding is reimbursement. So it's a cost share. So you do the work and then they reimburse you. So we then got paid to develop that plan. So that's one that we're literally finishing up, but so the Phillips track is just developed. The Lake Toponemus was developed, we had goals and we picked goals out of the plan, so same thing, but Lake Toponemus was 78 years ahead of the same thing with you guys. Once this plan is developed, like Bill said, the funding opportunity is open because you have the plan. Like you could go to all these, non-NGOs, Arbor Day Foundation, things like that, and say, here's my plan, and they'll say, well, now we can talk to you. Because they won't unless you have a
Right, I
plan.
would love the natural area to be part of I feel like the natural area was not in the old plan, and it's really been pretty much ignored.
Yeah,
I mean, it's this huge piece of property, there's a group of volunteers and with some DPW help that pretty much manage it, and, but it's such an important part of our, town, and its surrounding towns. I mean,
Right.
we have volunteers that come from Red Bank and everywhere else, because they love to be in there, so. If we could figure out,
it's not a complicated process. It's been done many times in New Jersey. I just finished one in Seagirt for their Edgemere Park, and we did one for Crescent Park in Seagirt as well. So,
and was part of the community forestry, or
it
no?
was not, it was a separate plan,
Okay,
yeah.
So the end product, the product that we want is the forest management plan that we can then go to.
For that
There is-
piece of ground.
Right.
This community forestry management plan is essentially for the urban part,
Sure,
but that, the
yeah.
two of them will be connected,
Mhm.
but they're
Yeah.
separate sources of funding.
okay,
So now your minds are all blown, right?
yeah,
It's a
it just would be great to get
Well, I
some
agree.
help there. We work with Monmouth Parks, and Park System, the rangers come in and give us all sorts of advice and are very, very helpful. But,
It's nice if you have a trained forester that walks in to see, you said this piece of ground is 45 acres?
Yeah.
Okay, this 45 acres and the forester can look at it and say, okay, well, here is a stand that's only 20 years old, maybe it was abandoned field that's grown up and there's, 500 trees per acre. Okay, well, you would manage it differently than this piece here, this other 10-acre piece where it's been woods for the last 45 years and there's maybe 150 trees per acre there. The issues there are totally different
Yeah.
than there.
We actually just did that and broke that into zones. I mean, I don't, Paul, do you want to, anything about it?
Yeah, we sort of, did got a map of habitats, and there's like 9 different habitats identified in that 40+ acres. Some of them are wetlands, some of them are, established forests and other things, but we're really just baby steps, we really need a more concrete,
Yeah,
inventory and plan.
Well, as part of this planning process, it's very comprehensive. The states dictates exactly what they require. There's a soils requirement, there's a wildlife requirement, threatened endangered species search has to be done. Those all get identified. Could be habitat in there, could be not. You could maybe, part of that plan could be to just enhance that habitat for whatever threatened endangered species happens to be on the property. There's the forestry part of it as well. There's an understory part of it. There's
that's our problem.
if there's invasive species, NRCS has a practice which we used in Lake Topanimus to address some of that. We're gonna look to see what happens now. We've opened the canopy up to see what responds. If it responds appropriately, then we don't have to replant it.
Deer is our biggest
Yeah,
problem, which I'm
that's
sure
our
is what
biggest
everybody's, that's our
Everybody's got
biggest
problems
waste.
here.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I coming here, a deer walked in, right across River Road.
I'm surprised there's just one.
Yeah, there was only one. Yeah.
But
So
you don't do anything, do you have anything to do with deer management?
they have a practice for deer management, I believe. It's a fence.
Yeah.
Traditionally, it's fencing.
It's a fence.
Have you seen anything related to deer management in forestry management plans?
You don't do anything in forestry without you have to deal with the deer issue.
Mhm.
Okay, I've been doing this for 40 years. In the old days, when we had a timber sale, we used to cut the tops down. Tops are too small for lumber.
Mhm.
So we used to cut them down because they looked unsightly. Now we just leave them because you leave a big top there that deer can't get in. And the only thing that ends up regenerating is what they can't eat, and it comes up through the tops. Where the branches prevent the deer from eating it, so eventually the top will rot and the regeneration will be higher than the deer can browse. So there's things that you can do that don't require fencing, okay, but really.
No, we use a lot of fencing, but it's kind of.
The other thing in a lot of our projects, tree tubes versus cages, like that's a kind of a hot debate. We've done a couple replanting where we use the tree tubes, and universally, no one really likes them.
Talking about the thick,
It's like a plastic
yeah.
that goes around, it makes the tree very whippy. I don't know if that's a technical term, but the trunk doesn't grow as it should, so then you have to get cages, because like Bill said, deer predation, you could plant all these trees and the next day they're all gone, and you're like, what did we just, so that's part of the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, they have a detail for a cage too, so you don't have to fence the whole area if you don't want to. You can put a cage around it till it gets to the point where it's above.
So is that something that, in your opinion, makes sense to put in our plan under a goal? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
controlling the deer population is way beyond the shade tree scope,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering if it's worth a mention. So it's just another place where it's noted and kind of build awareness. We're not really gonna have any control. I know there's been discussions of hunts here, and all kinds of things, but I mean, again, that's out of our scope. But I think
I think what
if it's worth a mention. And
You can certainly mention in the plan that you want to pursue a forest management or a forest stewardship plan for that 45 acres.
Yeah.
And deer management would be part of that. Absolutely. And you'd like to seek funding to have the plan produced. And you know, I mean, I can write it up saying, you know, proposal to go talk to NRCS to see whether or not they would fund a forest stewardship plan for that.
That's what we need.
The borough did get a grant to do a forest health survey
Yeah,
that CME is preparing.
Okay,
I don't know where that stands at the moment. It's done
For
yet.
that area.
and who's CME is doing,
Yes,
Sherry's doing?
I don't know if she is, CME is. I haven't received an update.
I think that's kind of a justification to go after the deer. We're hoping that that'll show that there really is a problem with the deer, but. Yeah, that's.
I don't know if there's any findings yet. I don't think any product has been delivered that I know of. That came from council.
I mean, if you don't mind, I can just pick up the phone and speak to Sherry and ask her what the status on that is. And keep a few things around for see.
Sure, just don't bill us.
It's part of this plan. It's everything. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I think if an assignment for the next meeting,
Yeah, absolutely.
look through this 3 history accomplishments, barriers to success. Think about that. Okay? And think about what your overall program goals, we spoke about 3 of them today. And then we can kind of plug in the plan connections and the rest of your considerations. Whether or not you have some new folks on a shade tree commission, maybe it's a training. Maybe you might want to get some training for them, whether it's core training, whether it's CEUs that you need to maintain your accreditation as well.
Well, new commissioners usually just take over the budget plan. And the management plan. So,
And there is a budget, there's a template in there too for the budget.
okay,
So
yeah.
you might want to think about that. I'm sure you may have to talk to your DPW head, because that may be a good part of it.
Yeah.
One of the things that goes into the budget that, at least from past years, was anything budgetary that was tree related, because then that would help you with your National Arbor Day application as well. I think they have a minimum requirement. Are you a Tree City USA?
Yes, per capita, yes.
Yeah, there's a per capita, I think it's gone up to like $35 per person or something like that.
We
I'm not
do,
sure.
yeah, we well exceeded
I'm
it.
sure you do. And one of the reasons you do is if you do brush and leaf pickup, those costs get included in here, and then you can just take this and use it on your.
Oh, I didn't even include that. Wow, then we're way over.
Yeah.
Yeah, leaf and brush pickup, and you know, I did take a ride around, and you have a lot of brush in the street.
It's,
You lost
we're
a lot.
waiting for pickup right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I mean, the winds have been horrible, but you almost can't get by some streets in town because there's so much brush on the side of the road.
Man.
Right, no, this is true, this is true.
It's a lot.
One
One town, same thing.
Pickup starts next week, we know. We were told.
So you touched on the budget, so if we can kind of frame this in our own minds, and I know we touched on this in different ways, but do we think of this as, it can't be pie in the sky, but it's aspirational, right, in terms of what we want to accomplish, but we also need to obviously be mindful of what is a reasonable budget.
Yes.
That's involved here, right? I mean,
You don't have to attach numbers to it.
Yeah.
Okay, but it can be aspirational
mm-hmm,
as far as that goes, especially if you realize when you start to look at the numbers, that you really would like to do a little bit more at risk reduction,
mm-hmm,
but the DPW's budget can't support outside contractors, or DPW themselves can't do the work that needs to be done. Those are the things that you need to look at.
Mhm.
And then decide where, if you are gonna ask for some additional funds,
mm-hmm,
how it's justified and why.
mm-hmm.
Okay. This might be a little off topic, but I saw in here, in the guidelines. They talked about, inventorying trees but they mentioned that it was, I guess it was highly recommended or required that it be a professional, qualified professional, they call it. Now, if we does that preclude like a DPW supervisor or director who has been trained in like the Arbor Pro software to do any kind of inventorying, or is it really like a licensed tree expert that?
It does not have to be a licensed tree expert.
Okay,
And I don't want to speak for DEP that wrote the guidelines, although I sat on it, I chaired the committee that developed that.
Mhm.
My understanding of what they consider a qualified individual is somebody that has training enough to identify trees down to species.
no, okay.
Okay. So there's not a real credential that has to be required, that's required like an LTE,
Mhm.
a licensed tree expert, but if that person can distinguish trees down to species, that would qualify.
Yeah, well, okay.
What part is this?
It was on the guidelines, the
Yeah.
urban forest structure composition and trends. Page 5, let's see, what was it? This was the guideline, page 5 of the guide.
You know, the state didn't want to fund 20,000 or 5,000 for a plan, another 15 for an inventory if it was gonna be a bunch of Girl Scouts going out. I think that was what they did not want.
So, but this already being done, kind of, are you talking about if somebody was gonna go out and add trees to
Yeah.
this?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Just,
alright.
I was just thinking like, further down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it'd be, as long as, like I said, they have enough information, knowledge and qualifications to go down to species and identification, then.
Like
But
the ones I had,
somebody's
took a
plant-
picture of the tag, sent it to me, so I just basically wrote it into the.
Right,
That's
that was
fine.
my question, like if you plant something, 'cause technically, like in theory, it's all already correct. But if we're taking something down, we don't have to, like, it's just removed and we would, in theory, know what we were putting back in its place
Right.
because we have a tag,
Yes,
right?
yeah, well, the planting part is easy
Yeah.
because somebody's telling you what it is.
Right.
It's
That's
when
the
you're
only part
walking
I
down the road
Right.
and the trees and somewhat on the side of the road, that you have to be able to identify that tree in the inventory.
So we just have to be really good at keeping this updated and then we're good to go, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Thank
that's
you.
the other thing too, there's. Fairhaven is amending the plan or the inventory as you go. Many towns don't have the capacity to do that. So they'll do this inventory and it's good for 10 years. They're laying out their 10-year plan based on that. Okay, but it's not getting changed because they don't have the capacity to do that. They don't have somebody they can pay that's knowledgeable enough to go in there and make those changes. So they just have a piece of paper that says this is what they're gonna do. They're gonna plant 50 trees or 500 trees, whatever it is, in the next 10 years at these addresses. Because they've been identified and the vacancies are there. So each year a planting plan goes out, they just pull a series of addresses and plant the trees there. And they know, on an ongoing basis because it's static, it's dynamic, I mean, in the fact that the trees look great tomorrow, but after all these storms, it may not be next week. So that something changes, they may have to remove that or.
So one of our, and this is kind of new, but one of our biggest barriers, I think, to planting is watering. And that's one of the former borough administrator was not into planting trees because she's like, who's gonna take care of them, who's gonna water them? How do towns, do you have any suggestions? Even putting them around the border of Fairhaven Fields, I think would be great. There's so many stumps. But getting water is always the biggest problem.
Did you see in here, like it said, like barriers and it said things that you need and one thing on there was a water truck, I immediately thought of you.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a good water truck. We have one. We have like a gravity water truck that like goes. It takes, and DPW, that's DPW time. We need a summer intern to do our water truck. That's what I would like.
Happens all the time. Spring Lake does the same thing. They hire somebody for the summer.
But they just hire it. Yeah.
They hire somebody for the summer
Water
to do
boy.
the watering. And they have a truck and he fills it up sometimes several times a day. And he goes around to all the newly planted trees and he waters them. And they use bags. They
Yeah.
were using those gator bags, and now they've evolved to these things that are like sponges. So that you fill them with water and it soaks up, but if it rains, or even if it's high moisture content in the morning from the dew, they look like donuts. They soak the water up and then they provide it to. So they,
Are they called diapers or something? I feel like I've seen this somewhere.
yeah, well, if you went to any Arbor Fest, I think up
Yeah.
in Edison, the vendor was there. If you wanna speak to Spring Lake about it, I'll give you the number of the woman that was responsible for. I think they bought a bunch of them.
Is it,
Sid Wally.
Sid Wall, yeah, I've met her at the,
Everyone knows Sid.
yeah,
She's terrific.
yeah, she is. So she
So-
spoke at the conference last year. Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, and
She comes to we have that, Brian Mallon drove that, shade tree, shore area
the
shade tree.
regional, the
Yeah,
regional
which
meetings,
is great.
yeah. So that's how they do it. They hire somebody who goes around in a water truck. Some towns, if they're planting in someone's yard because it's in front of their house, they'll make sure that they say, do you understand what your watering obligation is? And do you want a tree? Don't plant a tree in front of somebody's home that doesn't want it. That's almost universal across all the towns that I've ever worked with. The person doesn't want the tree,
Yeah.
don't plant it there. Because they're not gonna care for it. Sometimes they'll pull it out because, some people don't like trees for whatever reason. So there's that. If you can get the homeowner involved,
Mhm.
that's helpful. It's not guaranteed that person is gonna water it when it needs to be. And with the last 3 years that we've had, the drought's been horrible. It's a lot of towns are reducing their tree planting just because they have to water 2 and 3 years afterwards, just to get the trees to survive. So, if you're gonna plant the tree, you gotta water it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, especially the last 3 years.
We planted a bunch in the natural area in December, and that ended up being great, because it rained so much.
Yes.
In the winter, yeah,
That's
much
the
better
other,
this spring.
that's the other thing, fall has always been the second best time to plant trees, because some trees you can't dig in the fall, like oaks. And the stone fruits like dogwoods and cherries, you have to dig them in the spring, but then you have to get them through that summertime. Where they're halfway established if they're fall planted, and they have people, at least they don't feel that need to be watering it when they're dormant. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of science involved in that feeling that they don't have to care for them as much if they're planted in the fall, but can't hurt. So.
Great.
So that's really what it is. If you look at, it's page 8, it looks like. If you look at some of those, and you have any thoughts to send to me, I'll make those changes. And traditionally, how it works is I'll make whatever changes. I'll work on it between now and the next meeting. And then we'll sit down and we'll make sure it's exactly what you want.
Okay,
Discuss the next step.
sure.
And hopefully in 6 months, as we go through the process, we'll have a complete plan.
All right.
And it's also, the aspiration part is, I like that, the mayor's gotta sign this. So he or she has to be on board.
Sure.
With whatever is in the plan.
So we need to keep him in the loop.
Yeah.
There was, the liability section in your liability statement.
Yes,
Is that something, and I should ask Christie, is that something that typically is reviewed by like a town attorney?
could be,
Or-
could be,
So it
not
could be
necessarily.
kind of-
I would think that, prudent towns would have that.
Yeah.
Would have that reviewed by the attorney.
Factor.
As I said, this whole thing, trees are, and planting is important, but the whole plan.
Mhm.
And this whole process was designed to reduce risk and revolves around that liability statement. That's actually one of the more pieces to this planning process. So the guidelines have.
Come at it from that angle, yeah.
The guidelines have an appendix in here that talks about, model.
This depend on.
Model liability statement.
Yeah, I think so.
So, Mike, you have an existing one from the last plan, and I think I included
There
that.
is one in the, yeah. the
Okay,
original.
and then there's the model one. You might wanna put the two of them together and decide if you're gonna change the language a little bit.
Mhm.
Because, you know, liabilities change a little over the years in terms of how it's viewed.
Okay.
So take a look at that and, you know, if it's gonna be changed, let me know what it is and I'll make sure that I get it on the next iteration.
Does it make sense for the members to send me all their comments, so I can just give you one consolidated email, so you're not fielding a bunch of?
That would be great.
Yeah, I think I prefer that to funnel through you
Yeah.
and.
That would be fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say like, if you want any changes made, send them like 2 weeks before the meeting, so that way it gives you 2 weeks to incorporate. Is that fair?
Yeah, you can say 2 weeks, but you know, the night before, I'm probably gonna be. That's fine.
You're being honest, good.
Okay. Okay. So, just send me anything you have and I'll put it all together.
Well, so we're starting with this word, and we're just gonna try to take some of the stuff from our old that's so relevant and
Well, I think I've taken what I thought might be relevant.
it's already in here.
Yes,
Mm,
and that's in the black type.
okay.
The red type is DEP's guideline recommendations for the discussion, okay? And what they're gonna be looking for in the plan. So look at that red type as well and say, okay, well, that means for Fairhaven this. This is what we'd like to do with what they're doing.
Mhm.
And you already have your inventory, so we're really ahead of the game. The other thing I think that you need to talk about is, you have a great website and there's application for tree removals and tree. This is terrific. You've got. I assume it came out of this, you guys, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Okay,
Not the, I mean, you didn't do the application.
The borough, the
Sure,
borough,
yeah.
please.
okay. Did you guys decide on what the recommended trees to be planted are? Or did
Yeah,
that come from somebody else?
It was a group.
well, there's two, see, I don't even know, is
Yeah,
it the
there's still a
Monmouth?
couple links.
So,
up for grabs.
Brian Mallon shared the, like, Monmouth. The official one that everybody was using, but,
Okay.
we also had something that we used about trees in Fairhaven. Native trees and.
Okay,
whatever.
and the website's got some great native trees in there. It really does look nice. You have an appendix A on this
Mhm.
application where it has a bunch of trees
That's
recommended?
right from the ordinance.
Okay, that's from your ordinance?
Mhm.
Okay, because there's been, and it looked like it was signed in 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, just better.
Did it take a while to,
Uh,
no, did it take a
Depends on-
while to develop that list and then it was finally signed in 24?
The list or the ordinance?
Well, the list that was into the ordinance, I guess.
This was a list
Yeah,
came
list.
from
Yeah,
multiple sources.
yeah.
Okay,
Bonnie, where-
there's a couple of,
Yeah.
there's a couple of concerns in here.
Okay, that's, yeah.
And it's all a result of disease. Okay,
Mhm,
the inventory says that you have bacterial leaf scorch in town.
yeah.
I don't know how up on bacterial leaf scorch the arborists were that were working on this. It's bad here in New Jersey. And they did their inventory in June. The symptoms of BLS usually shows up in late August. So they might not have seen, they did tag a couple of trees as being BLS, but it's probably more prevalent than they may have seen.
Hmm.
So red oaks, you have so many red oaks on this planting list. They're not being recommended for planting because of the BLS threat. So I don't know, maybe put a disclaimer or something in there. The white oaks are fine
White oaks
because
are
they're much
fine,
more
yeah.
disease resistant to that. Beach leaf disease, 100% fatal. It's wiping out our beaches. You have beach on that list. So if you want, I can send you some suggestions
That'd be
on
great.
how you might modify that to reduce. They're great native trees are just being wiped out by diseases. So until we get a handle on that, it's probably not a good idea to plant them. And I also have some additional great native trees that weren't on your list that I'll send to you to consider as well.
Great.
But somebody did their homework on it too. They did a nice job.
Nice. We did.
Who knew?
Yes, we did. Thank you.
Great job.
Did you read our tree ordinance?
I did.
Which-
There's some really good things in here. I work a couple days a week. I was asked to, as the program manager for the Board of Tree Experts. And in here, you have the #1 statement that needs to be on everyone's ordinance. And that is that you can't do tree work in a town unless you're licensed and registered with the state under the Board of Tree Experts. Because that protects the municipality. If they're licensed and registered through the State Board of Tree Experts, they have to have $1 million worth of liability insurance. Protects the homeowner, protects the municipality, and they have to have workers' comp for any employees they have on the job as well.
Mhm.
And it also means they've gone through the training, so they actually know what they're doing. So that statement alone, it means to me that somebody really did their homework.
That was a Sherry ad.
Is that,
Yeah.
she serves, I mean, I'm the program manager as a staff person, but she's on the Board of Tree Experts. So, that's excellent. I'll have to give her kudos.
Good. All right, so that, our homework assignment, anything else that,
That's it for now. I'll be adding to it as well.
yeah,
As we go through this without a doubt. And if you have any questions, you either call Christie or, you can send me a text or something if you have a question and I can answer directly. That'd be fun.
okay.
And if you're in town and you want a little tour of the natural area, just so you know what you're dealing with,
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah.
I'd like
happy
that.
to
Okay.
walk you.
I have cards here if anybody needs them.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, thanks.
Thank
I'm
you.
really
Thank
glad
you
you
for coming.
selected me to
Appreciate
do
it.
this plan. I really am. I really liked Fairhaven the first time, and I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far.
That's great. It's nice to hear. We appreciate it. Welcome back.
And
Thank you.
I hope we can figure out something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you
yeah.
for coming.
Like I said, we're hoping to look over Bill's shoulder, because Bill said eventually he wants to retire. I don't believe it. He said it, he says eventually, but I.
Do you have contact info that you could also give Christie?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing too. We talked about capacity at DPW. There's no capacity to be able to do all these plans based on the technical capacity. So I went to Tim and said, we need another forester to help. And, well, we probably need another 20. And, so we're trying to build the capacity from the consultant standpoint as well. So
Interesting.
You want to come to Love Where You Live Day and you can convince all the kids to become foresters?
Yeah, we certainly can. Everybody wants to be a financial. All right.
I think we sure.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh no, I was in kind of a journey. That's it. I feel like, Cyrus.
Take care. Thanks for coming.
All right, everybody. Yeah. Nice meeting you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for
See you
coming.
next month.
And, yeah, well, make sure we do our homework.
Yeah, we'll go through it too and be more efficient at it. A lot of questions for you.
Okay, yeah. Use yours as a guideline there.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
Jacob, did you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah, I can introduce myself. Yeah, I was born and raised in Fairhaven for the last 26 years and
Oh, wow.
recently was hired as a forester in training with the Freehold Soil Conservation District. So as Bill just mentioned, trying to expand the capacity. And very cool that I can be working in my hometown.
Sweet.
Wait, do you still live here?
Yes, I do. I live with my folks right now, yeah.
That's great.
Not
Do
for
you
long.
want to come to Sure.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what?
Bonnie has a role in.
I'm not, I mean, I'm not kidding. What's your?
Well, yeah.
We can be with the Shade Tree Commission.
Yeah, I'm running happy. My twins actually, works with the firehouse and he did the same thing as the kids. Black.
Can you give a card?
No, my cards aren't in the mail yet.
He's too
Can I-
good.
Sure, yeah, it's phone number first, I guess, 908-433.
Oh, it's being recorded.
Wait,
Just write it
down.
Okay. Or you want to give me your picture?
Oh, yeah, you're right down.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect.
Nobody's watching. Usual crap.
The only one public.
Hey, wouldn't that be fun?
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's great.
Wait, Paul,
Yeah,
Bunyan.
really cool.
What's that? Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen our Salem Oaks?
You had?
We
you
have,
had some-
we have, we have
Where are they?
2 that are planted in McCarter Park and 1 is still on my back porch.
All right.
We got extras. We got our and it's gonna be, I'm not planting my yard. We're just figuring out the place to plant it.
Your baby.
I don't even know how, yeah, I need to plant somewhere. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank
Thank you,
you.
Jacob.
Nice.
Thanks for letting us jump in.
All right. Thank you for coming, gentlemen. Appreciate it. All right, so I think, I mean, we have our homework assignment from Bill. And then on top of that, I guess we should come prepared with some goals. I mean, I know we all have our goals, we all have our, but we should all come prepared with a couple of goals and see what sticks, some,
Right.
some talking points, I guess.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm sure a lot of
Can I
them
just-
the
Yeah.
tree planting goals in the current one,
Mhm.
the goal of the tree planting program are as follows: achieve the goal of ensuring that for every available planting location, there will be a suitable tree planted. Every available,
Yeah.
that's a goal.
We have lofty aspirations.
Were you on the commission when this, last week? You were? Okay.
Oh.
Were you?
Yeah.
Wow,
That was
The
back in
Oracle.
the cave,
the Oracle.
yeah, back in the day of Ken Dorway, I believe. it was.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it was.
Dorway and Sea Rod.
So you
Okay.
remember Bill from,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good. He was a good dude.
yeah.
Wow.
And anything else we should come prepared? For the next meeting.
Yeah.
Whenever you think it's appropriate, we can reach out to Nick to see when would be a good time to get his input, because I think it would be valuable.
Mhm.
I don't know if you want to get a little further along.
Yeah.
At least, see, planning from every month? Is that what he's?
He's gonna be here next month, that's for sure.
Okay.
Next
And we'll clarify that, because that would probably. That also, I mean, I guess, he's looking at 6 months, and in reality, that's 6 meetings minus July. So reality, that's not a huge amount of time, for all just meeting once, so I think it's gonna be important to come prepared each meeting with some real data and,
Yeah, like really.
hopefully be able to, come to conclusions at the end of each meeting, yeah.
Yes.
Well, do you want to break it up, or are we all working on everything and just kind of read through and throw out ideas first?
So, yeah, I was thinking about breaking it up, but we just got this kind of rough draft from him
Yeah.
today.
We just do what he tells us to do, and he's done this before, and we just follow his process.
Yeah,
Stick to the process.
stick to the plan, yeah.
I mean, at least
I
for the
agree.
first time, so we can see where he goes with it, so we don't make ourselves insane.
Right, yeah, I don't think we should
I have 2 things
split
to
up stuff
start.
we don't wanna split up, or we don't know what to split up.
So is that a reasonable timeline within in 2 weeks, send me all of your stuff, I'll combine it and get it to him,
Pass it
so
on
he
to him.
has time to put it into the plan, so
Mhm.
he could have the draft prepared for.
What is that date? Because we have spring break in there, that's.
May.
only 2 weeks.
Next meeting.
May 7th.
7. So that means it would.
We
You
also
guys tell
pick our
me.
poster winners that meeting too, so.
Oh my God.
So if you have everything to me like on the 24th. That'll give him like almost 2 weeks. For the 28th, I don't know,
Yeah,
up to you guys.
Yeah.
can we get through Earth Week and Lovely Live Day and, next day.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's so, if we're just giving him notes, so it's like just a place for him, for us to
Well,
start, so yes, right? Like, if
Yeah.
we-
These are
No,
talking
it's
points.
just talking points,
Yeah.
and then I think he's gonna turn them into a reality.
Yes.
essentially, Right, that's.
He knows how to
he knows. what he's
massage
doing.
it, yes,
Yeah.
he does.
Yeah. Okay,
But yeah, any ideas, he's always very open to, and then he knows how to put it in appropriately.
Right, right. And, you
that's
know,
great, I'm excited.
aspirational goals, but also realistic goals. All right, then with that. Open it up for, let's see, we didn't have anything else here. I mean, we have proposed new agenda items, but I think for, at the very least, for the next meeting, we have our main agenda item. And then our poster contest winners, that's the next meeting?
That's the
May?
next
May?
meeting, yeah.
Okay,
Do we have anything else that we have to finish, like we have to do before the next meeting? I think where you lived is before the
Yeah.
next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I really need help because last year Leah and I were on the table. Leah is working at another table with somebody else. I'm kind of in charge of the whole thing, so I can't be sitting at the shade tree table the whole time. The big tree hunt,
or
Joe Bennett is coming
okay,
from the forestry service. He'll be there measuring trees. That was going to be one of our activities. And I have, someone who's, sorry,
Jacob.
and Jacob.
Yeah,
Jake.
I mean, sitting there and telling,
Jake,
what
You know,
time is left where you live day?
it's, Sunday, the 27th from 1 to 4.
I put a sign up genius link in the. Right,
You did?
yes,
Okay.
so I put 2 shifts in, and
I didn't see it.
it was in the email with all the stuff.
And
Oh.
Christy, I can't believe that, John Fenwick shaved his beard before the event. Very disappointed.
I would go-
She made it go.
John.
But I told you, well, you trimmed it up there too, he was. had something
There's no
going
chance
last
I'm
time I
gonna
saw
be
him,
the
so.
John. You are definitely the John. By the way, just to get back to the poster contest, our teacher is now having all the kids do it, so we're gonna have tons of posters. So
Could
that'll
she
be,
edit for us?
yeah, that would be nice, right? I can ask.
Yeah, like give us, the top
Top,
10.
Yeah.
top 5,
Top
top
five.
3.
Top 5 for each
Yeah,
class.
that'd be much easier.
We'll be,
And the
with
library
hundreds.
event is a go, we're just gonna work on seedlings. We gotta
Yes.
coordinate on that,
Well, so we have to vote on that.
okay,
Because we
On
have
the
to,
expense.
yes. So, the library is asking for us to provide 15 seedlings for their, grade school event on Tuesday, April 22nd, the Tuesday before Arbor Day. That's their Arbor Day event for the Sickles age kids, and I asked if they wanted support, and she got back to me saying that, it'd be helpful if we can provide 15 seedlings.
just 15
Yeah, that's all I said, how many do you expect? She said 15, so.
kids.
So, that's,
So like
I said,
$20.
fine, and then I know that Bonnie, you're working on getting seedings for Love Where You Live Day, so if we.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chris, I'd asked Chris about the giveaway and do you want to, what you found out was that we can get them.
Yes, for our cost now. There was a free program,
Yeah.
that Sandy Recovery Program, they were offering for free, no longer, that expired. So now you can pay for them.
It's $40 for 25.
think.
No, it was $100 for 30.
Oh, that was when, if they're mailed to us, I didn't even see that was for the
But you said you
Atlantic
could
White
pick them up
Cedar.
perhaps?
I can go out there to
Jackson.
Jackson.
I think it's the same cost regardless, if they're the tube seedlings, if they're bare roots, there's a lot more variety, but they're basically like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the tubes are safer, right?
Future dead
Well,
trees.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
the tubes
we're
was,
truly promoting trees. Let's try to,
Yeah.
save them as best we can.
Give
Yeah.
a tree.
well, that,
Many are sold out, the only ones left were, did I tell you?
oh, is that,
Cedar?
well, the cedar was the only one I thought they got shipped here. And then the other ones you picked up.
Hemlock,
Yeah, but then the list of,
but then that bigger list, those are bare roots,
yeah,
so it just depends what you want.
It was Atlantic White Cedar, right?
yeah,
How does that sound, Bonnie?
they sound great.
Okay. Do you wanna do that?
We were
then?
actually, okay, so. All right, so if we,
And they would, you're right, they would be shipped,
yeah.
30 for $100.
Cause they're in a tube.
They're in a tube.
So
Is
then-
15 enough for your Love Where You Live Day?
I don't know, maybe I just go get some more too. I mean. Cause I was thinking maybe the natural area might want some too.
Well, how about this? Motion to approve. I'm making a motion to approve $100 to purchase 30 seedlings for Love Where You Live Day and the Arbor Day event at the library.
I'll second that.
And then, Chrissy, can you put that order in and?
Yes.
I just wondering, if I wanted to do something for the natural area and get the bare root. Can I just do this or does that have to be official town?
Oh, maybe call, I mean, you're just
Yeah.
gonna go and pay cash for the natural area?
Well, get rid. Instead of doing the
Yeah,
PO
we see-
thing,
For
No, you
shade
don't
tree,
get
I'll
a
be doing a
receipt, so no.
purchase order,
yeah,
so. That's the only way.
right. I don't know, do we want, maybe we'll do a purchase order for the natural area. Yeah, I don't know, we have to talk about that. Okay. Hope I can get that,
All right, so Live Where You Love Day, you're gonna be covered. I'll be there.
live where you.
I like Live Where You Love Day.
Love it, all of it.
So what we're gonna.
I do both.
I
I
love-
live where I love, and I love where I live.
We love Fairhaven,
Whatever.
so we live there.
Yeah, I love it.
So-
You know,
Yes, you
So,
all.
we,
All about the love.
we need, Peter, can you possibly be there on the 27th?
I'm almost positive I can, yeah.
Okay,
And the email I
So-
sent with
I'm
all
gonna
the
try and-
agenda stuff
and
on Thursday.
pawn off a different-
has the sign up sheet.
Okay.
Can you send that out again just
so we
separately?
need like,
So-
yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna try and pawn off a different event I had for work that day, and
Okay.
if I can, I will
okay.
be there,
Okay.
because of course that's from 1 to 3.
So, we'll have a table and, I'll have the pictures of the big tree hung, we'll have Joe Bennett there, who's gonna stand by the tree and show people how to do that. I will talk to Jacob and see, if he could bring something about for our service, what he does, maybe really
Bring his
inspire,
knowledge.
inspire kids to, do that. We were thinking about having like a photo, having kids hug trees or something and take pictures and hang them up or do something like that, but. I know we talked about this treasure hunt. There's already gonna be like Sticks and Sprouts is gonna be there running around doing nature collecting. There's gonna be a bunch of nature crafts there. So I don't know, and we could have, a little thing on the Salem Oaks, information.
I mean, I can get a fake beard on it. It's a deal breaker, I guess. I don't know. All right,
But
I
if
can
you wanna
try.
be-
I would've got it.
I mean, yeah, the other thing is.
I got almost a month.
When we planted this last year, were we gonna try to do an annual photo with them? Were we thinking about doing that?
I don't remember that in the discussion, but I think we did talk about maybe having a class come out every year. Was that it? Or
Yeah, I
maybe
know, I
you
just
thought about
wondered
like,
maybe,
you know, That would be a nice thing, actually, like it would, third grade, right, transitions out of there, so,
Yeah,
you know, that. Something like that,
Mhm.
but it would be nice to have some kind of record like that.
yeah. I also think, you know how I had 3 pieces of fencing around them, because I wanted it tight so things didn't get thrown in. I think that they need another, I have 2 extra pieces to expand, so I think they actually have grown.
I don't
Okay.
think that one of them has, I don't know about
Yeah.
that other little one.
Yeah, I'm
Well-
nervous about that little.
Yeah.
No, that's scary,
not
that's
much
the
progress on
the
that one.
spare.
I reached out.
Yeah, William and Harry, the spare and the spare. Well, I have some double spare on my porch.
Double
So,
spare.
Harry might need a replacement.
Okay, Harry's younger, Harry came later. I mean, really, they're not the same, like, Dave.
And let's face it, Harry's always been a problem.
Yeah.
He's really been a problem. Okay. Sounds good.
Yes.
So we'll be there and, well, we'll see. Yep.
Natural area update, the
Cool.
natural area will be having their volunteer day that same weekend, the end of Earth Week, it's Saturday, 10 to 1, and Sunday, 10 to 1, so. Somebody from there is coming, I think
Trio.
Dick Buller is gonna come and sit at the table right after, so it's volunteer day and then lovely look day, so,
All right,
um,
good stuff.
but there was. Cheers.
All right, with that. I'll open it up to public comment. If there is
Nothing?
Mr. Olson.
Office on.
Any public comments over there? All right,
Oh, I do want to just add that the, spring tree climb programs with 80 trees.
yes, yeah,
My neighbor got in with 4, like, split in under the wire. So, like,
yeah.
So
That's
80
really
trees.
amazing, because we
80
did,
trees.
Yeah,
it was 75, I think was the total all of last year for the 2 of them. Wow.
well, we had 54 in 52 last spring and 28 in the fall, so,
So,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Do
That's
do they have
a-
dates when they're gonna plant? No.
end of May, mid to end of May, yeah.
Hmm.
So, no, they don't tell us. That would be. You know, keep you on your toes. They start digging them and stuff like that, so that's.
Do you have the list of what people ordered?
The Green Giants were the 37 of the 80 were the Green Giants. And then the next biggest was the Lawns and Cherries. And then they 9 of those, and then tied for 6 were the Emerald Green Arborvitaes and the Eastern Redbud multi-stem.
Okay, so not many big shade trees.
No, 8 large shade trees altogether.
Wow.
19 flowering and 52 evergreen. So,
Yeah, 80 trees.
That's understandable. People,
Yeah.
people have.
yeah, no, it is.
Can't plant 80 white oaks, right?
But still, like the maple is the one that people
Yeah.
generally go for, so I'm just trying to see. Yeah, but.
Fantastic.
That's 80 trees in the ground.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next time.
See you next time. Get homework.
I know. You know, the tree inventory, holy cow, you rocked it. I mean, you're
Oh,
gonna
I mean,
A plus plus.
Being on this
Yeah.
the core training and people are talking about like, just like doing